Okay, I think I'm live. I'm not going to be here long. I'm just going to read the first chapter of Quietus, and then I will let you go about your days. If I stumble if I stumble across my words, it's because I'm a bad vocal reader. I don't know how to speak properly. Uh, well, can you hear me all right? You might hear a slight buzzing in the background. That's just my AC, and my internet is trash. Just forewarning. But anyway, let's get started. Chapter 1: Unthinkable Peculiarity. A vibrant warning cried out to the nearest warm body. Alert! Alert! It cried, hoping someone would answer its call. The lights flickered, draping the room in fluorescent orange. Every sign to warn the night staff about the imminent danger was loudly present, announcing the worst to come. Josh Warcombe sat in his computer chair with his legs crossed, the button-laden control panel in his front. The button-laden control panel in front of him, his eyes on his phone screen, with loud music blaring in his earphones. He was completely oblivious to the outside world, and would continue to be for the next 10 hours, or until his next bathroom break. It was just him and his online cat videos, a necessary escape for the mind-numbing job management of the city power hired him to do. He maintained the pressure in the coolant tanks on the off chance that all of the fail-safes failed, something that never happened, allowing him to be confident that his lack of focus on his job was okay. And on any other insignificant day, it would have been. But this day was not a normal day. This was the day Josh Warcombe would die. It's not like he knew when he left his house that evening that he would say his last goodbye to his wife of 10 years and his 3 kids. It was just a normal day where he went through his normal ritual, get to work, finish the last cup or 2 of burnt coffee that the day staff had forgotten about, and then read the newspaper or play on his phone. He had a high score in all of his mobile games, something he was proud of, but would tell nobody about. He didn't need anybody ratting him out for essentially doing his job as poorly as he could. When he grew bored with his mobile games, he would watch videos. It didn't matter the content, it was just a way to pass the time. Compilations of cat videos were his go-to because they were easy to digest and required the lowest amount of thought. He could watch 100 of them without hesitation, allowing for hours to fly by. And that was just what he needed. Josh was nearing the end of his 3rd or 4th compilation when he received a text message from his friend that read, "Dude, check this live feed out immediately. Something's going down near the enormous field outside of town. I'm sitting in traffic watching this right now. Someone in front of us is live streaming it. Check it out." The end of the message had a link that Josh tapped on, pausing his cat video. The link opened a video that Josh recognized to be taking place on the outskirts of the city. He could see a train of cars stretching for miles far past the frame of the video. He heard honking, presumably from those waiting in the traffic jam, mixed with the offspring's "You're Gonna Go Far, Kid," which he assumed was the song on the live streamer's radio. The video was jumpy, like the person who was recording had zoomed in as far as he could, and the phone was detecting every micro movement the person made. Josh watched and realized the video wasn't recording the traffic jam, but a vibrantly black figure, the size of a mountain. At the foot of the figure, he could see what looked like a crashed, almost flattened ambulance, with a couple of blurry blobs he assumed were humans standing and watching the figure. Further in the distance, between the figure and the blobs, he saw a small red and blue dot he could barely make out to be a woman, probably in her mid-20s, running with such ferocity towards the massive figure. Weird how I can barely make her out, but I can't see the closer blobs in such detail, Josh thought, as he took in every detail of the video. He sat there in awe as the woman leaped and landed on what looked like an arm, trying to swipe her into the atmosphere. She continued to run without breaking stride. It impressed Josh. He had seen nothing like this before, and apparently no one else in the chat had either. They filled the chat with negativity. Fake! I've seen better CG in black and white films. This is just another stunt put on by the government to get us to behave like good little sheep. Josh continued to watch. He ignored the people in the chat as he did. The woman had climbed halfway up the arm, and the time the rude onlookers in the chat had distracted him. She was doing great, like she had trained her entire life to run up the mountain blackness. It seemed as if she was miraculously dodging the other arm in an attempt to knock her off of its body. But then a tragedy happened. From his perspective, the grainy footage made it look as if it had struck her. She disappeared. Where did she go? He thought, praying the live streamer would zoom out so he could see if she was flying through the sky. They didn't. They seemed just as confused as Josh. The view whipped back and forth chaotically, looking for the woman who had become the star of the show. I can't see her, the streamer said, as their windows exploded. Josh could hear the roaring boom that followed milliseconds later. He was glad he wasn't there, viewing this historical event, but at work, safely across town, nearly 200 miles away, where he wouldn't have to deal with random explosions like those in traffic. Yeah, I'm alright, guys, the streamer said, after reading the comments from his chat. No, that wasn't an airstrike, guys. I think it was a sonic boom. I can't really hear anything, and my car just got pushed around. We're going to get a little closer so we can get a better view of the action. Give me a second, guys. The streamer got out of his car, moving the camera in such a way that gave Josh nausea. He closed his eyes and waited for the video to stop shuffling around. When he heard a familiar roar, he jumped in surprise, not expecting the sound he had heard in the video to be rolling up from behind him. It was quieter, but still frighteningly loud. He could still hear it through his earbuds, which actively canceled sounds around him. He was unaware that the two similar sounds he heard were not the same. They were the roars of two separate catastrophic events. I still don't know where the lady went, but I can see one of the people by the ambulance now pointing to that hill over there. The video was finally zooming out as Josh opened his eyes. He took note of the live streamer's name, Big Ritz XX43, as he refocused on the content. Big Ritz had settled on a spot closer to the action. His arm jutted out and pointed toward a landmass that was as tall as the monster the lady was fighting. Josh noted a faded white cloud in the shape of a cone starting at the sheer drop-off of the hill. It intrigued him. He had never seen a cloud so perfectly formed before, but dismissed it. Weird, the three people by the ambulance are now running for the ambulance. They must see something that we don't, the streamer said, joyfully. It was obvious it enthralled him. Oh wow, would you look at that? The monster is glowing in iridescent white. I hope someone gets a wonderful photo of it. That can win many awards. The blackness became overwhelmingly white before bursting, killing the monster everyone was watching. Pieces of the monster fell onto the field, onto the roadway, and every surrounding uncovered entity. The pieces had a certain texture that reminded Josh of the tar that city workers would throw onto the road in the summer to seal the pavement. It was thick and viscous. A load of blackness had landed a foot or two away from Big Ritz. Someone just tipped me to touch that stuff. I'll do it, guys, especially for the content. I'm sure it can't be that dangerous. That lady was running on it. The live streamer rushed over and placed his face next to the sludge. He stuck out his tongue and raised his hand to form devil horns, then snapped a quick selfie to post later on his social media. His reaction to what happened made Josh feel uneasy. The streamer was being too jovial, like he had experienced something like this before. This guy is great at presenting, but it might get him killed one of these days, Josh thought. When the man finally stopped showing off, he stuck his foot into the mass of blackness, regretfully. His foot disintegrated immediately, followed by his shin, and then the rest of his body, leaving nothing remaining. Josh heard the streamer's voice. As the live feed turned toward the sky, he felt the inside of his body sink. He had just watched a man die, live. Though he didn't want to continue to watch the feed, his morbid curiosity compelled him to. He could see nothing happening in the video, but he continued to watch, just in case. He could hear screams of pain and fear, assuming more people had touched the sludge. The last thing Josh saw in the feed was a mess of rotating collars, like when Big Ritz moved to a better spot out of his car. After that, it was full darkness, leaving Josh to assume the stream had ended. Josh was awestruck. He couldn't believe what he had just seen. He was ashamed to admit it felt like a production, but he knew it was real. How else could he have heard the same sound roaring in the video and behind him only a few seconds afterward? That was a great movie. We'll have to watch that again someday, Josh thought, reaching for his uncapped water bottle blindly across the panel of buttons and switches. He smiled and stretched after taking a sip from his bottle, completely purging his memory of what he had witnessed. Okay, that's it. That's it. That's chapter 1. Quietus comes out August 27th, wherever books are sold. Please check it out. It is the sequel to the first book, Quasi Daisy, which Quietus just picks up right where Quasi Daisy left off. So, I hope you enjoy.